Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the bizarre behavior of Stephen McDaniel. In 2014, Stephen McDaniel accepted a plea deal to avoid the death penalty for the murder of Lauren Giddings. In 2011, he broke into Lauren Giddings' apartment, strangled, and then dismembered her. They were both neighbors and in the same JD program. Before we get started with the analysis, I wanted to remind you of a couple of things. One, this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. I'm just providing my opinions based on publicly available information. On top of that, I want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point.
All right, so you already noticed he's saying Lauren was my neighbor. We're trying to find out where she is, but talking about her in the past tense. We see criminals do this all the time. Listen to this part again.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out.
So you'll notice a pretty constant head shake. What his goal is to say, I don't know where she is. And so as he's going in with this mindset, it's making him shake his head constantly because that's his message is, I don't know.
I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
So one of the things about what he's saying is that it's true that the last time people heard from her was through an email. It's easier to tell these lies when you have other people that can confirm them, to say, yeah, the last time we heard from her was this time. So it's easier for him to create these kinds of lies.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
All right, now you'll notice when somebody asked if you saw him hang out with anybody. Now, the corner of his mouth showed contempt there. He was probably jealous. This is probably someone he was obsessed with. So the idea of her spending time or hanging out with somebody else causes him to feel contempt. Watch his mouth right here.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen.
All right, you'll notice when he said no one has seen her since Saturday, he closes his eyes when he's talking about that. We oftentimes do that when we think about things that we don't like. So answering a question like this that makes him very vulnerable because it's lies is going to be more stressful for him. So watch his eyes right here. I know the quality is not great, but see if you can see what I'm talking about.
No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
Now, this is one of the things about him. He is very peculiar. He makes peculiar connections, talking about, I haven't seen her. I hear people walking by outside, which is totally irrelevant. It just doesn't even make much sense in the context of what they're talking about.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
So you notice the excitement when he's talking about things they did together. They were both JD students. So when he can bring something in together, they're doing together, that's exciting for him. Watch his eyebrows and his face when he says this.
We were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know.
So when she said, do you know any enemies she might have had, he furrows his brow a little bit. And sometimes we do that just to show that we don't agree, but also the idea that he would be considered an enemy of her probably bothers him a little bit. So I think we're seeing a little bit of anger when that's asked.
Enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is.
Now see, he raises his eyebrows when he says, we don't know where she is. He's trying to bring attention to his face when he's saying that. So he really wants you to hear, we don't know where she is. And so that's one of the things that we see. We bring attention to our face with our eyebrows. And so that's the message right here. That's why he's willing to do this interview, to say, we don't know where she is. And that's the message more than anything else.
The only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because, we went.
Now, one thing that's also making these lies easier for him is he's talking about we, because clearly he's had conversations with other people about it. And so when he can say, yeah, as a group, we think this or we think that, it's easier to lie. Listen to this part again and we'll keep going.
Think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because, we went over, one of her friends had a key, we went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but...
So see, when he's talking about them as a group, it's much easier to lie because that is probably true. He went over with somebody else. They went inside. They saw all that. So we together thought and believed this. Much easier to lie about those things.
I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about
And that was an important point for him. There was a door jamb, so we didn't see that anyone broke in. If I remember correctly, he came in through a window, so that's probably something that he had thought about. He may have been the one that put the door jamb there, for all we know.
like the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard any, had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know.
All right, you saw the blinking really pick up. I know it's a little hard to see, but you see him blinking and blinking. Right now, he's getting into fight or flight, and he's being recorded. And so he's basically just shutting down. We talk about freeze, flight, and then fight. You're seeing that in real time. The stress is building up, and now he's frozen. He is now in danger. The body has been found, so he's frozen. He doesn't know what to do. And I bet you can guess where it's going to go next.
This is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
Right, and then there's the flight part. So he froze, now he's fleeing, and obviously it doesn't get to fight because it doesn't have to. It was as resolved as he needed it to be because he was able to escape, collect his thoughts. He's going to continue on with this interview a little bit. Let's watch that part again.
We're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
They asked if, are you okay, sir? And he shook his head no. I mean, he really probably legitimately is feeling an incredible amount of tension right there.
Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
As you'll notice, he has sort of an odd gait. He's just sort of a peculiar person. And then part of what is so peculiar about him is the idea that, and I apologize for the graphic description I'm about to give you, but he threw her torso in the apartment complex dumpster, if I understood correctly. So the idea that nobody was going to find it is sort of ridiculous, but his behaviors are bizarre. The way he thinks may be a little bit bizarre. And so maybe, despite the fact he's a JED student, clearly an intelligent enough guy to think through this, clearly he didn't expect this to be found, at least not at this point. So I would imagine that he decided to do more of this interview afterward because he realized that it wouldn't look good if he got upset and then said nothing else. And so now he's coming up and trying to explain why he's feeling the way he is. I presume he thought it would work in his favor.
Right.
And she was doing the online version of it.
You all studied together, though?
We were in, there's two different people, there's two companies that provide it. Kaplan provides it and Barbie provides it.
So they asked if they studied together, and he's going into this sort of diatribe about the different companies that provide these testing materials. So you have to understand, this is part of what I mean when I talk about bizarre behaviors, is he doesn't have very good reciprocal social interaction. In other words, he doesn't seem to read people well or have a good sense of audience. So he's giving a big explanation for something that doesn't need to be. Why he needs to explain why they weren't studying together rather than just saying, no, we didn't study together. He's giving reasons why that is, and it's really pointless.
Provides it. I signed up with Barbie, and I've been doing the lectures that they have in the mornings. She was doing the Kaplan online. I don't know anyone that would want to hurt her. She was as nice a person as there is.
And that was true. He doesn't know anyone that would want to hurt her because he's the one that did it. So in some ways, there's things that he can say that are in fact true. And it's easier to say that because he doesn't know anyone.
Was she moving soon? Did you know anything about her?
Yeah, she was going to be moving out.
All right. Now, I think that the way that he's putting on a bit of a performance, that hyperventilating, the whining a little bit. Listen to how he shifts from where he's starting to try to act like he's really broken up about it to where he's answering questions again.
There is.
Was she moving soon? Did you know anything about her?
Yeah, she was going to be moving out today. She was supposed to move out today because someone else was going to be moving into her apartment.
What are you thinking?
Why would anyone do this?
She didn't hear anything.
No.
So despite the fact that he's probably quite upset over the fact that they found the body, his performance was weird, and I think that most people could see that as they watched this.
I just heard something. Maybe I could have helped.
Okay, don't worry. A bunch of her friends are getting together or anything?
That's how I found out that she was missing.
Once again, he shifts very quickly between inconsolable and then answering questions. Now we're going to watch some of the interrogation of Stephen McDaniel with police. I'm going to be skipping around a lot because his behavior is pretty similar throughout. Let's just jump right in.
Can you help me?
I don't know.
Now you're noticing he sits very, very still. This position you're seeing, it's an unusual position, and that's part of why I chose him for bizarre behaviors. Oftentimes when we're talking to somebody, we shift our body to face them, even if we're talking about things that we don't want to talk about. But if you'll notice, he sits very still. His hands are on the table. His head is turned. That's an unusual position. Let's keep going, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it.
You don't know if you can help me?
Yes.
I need your help. Help me out. Tell me what to do. Has anybody asked you for help today? I'm asking you as a friend for help.
So the police officer is saying, I'm asking you as a friend for help. Now, the thing that they don't get is that for someone like Stephen McDaniel, those kinds of pressures, that type of social interaction is going to do nothing for him. He doesn't care. He doesn't care how you feel. He doesn't connect with how you feel. So when somebody says, hey, it would really help me out if you would do this, that's going to have no impact on him whatsoever.
Can you help me?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You can't help a friend out?
I don't know what you need.
I need to know where Lauren's at.
I don't know.
When's the last time you seen her?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
So listen to how monotone he is. He's incredibly strange, but he's not moving at all. And also oftentimes when we say, I don't know, if we're feeling it, we move our body with that. We shrug our shoulders. We put our hands up. It's hard not to do those things. If you watch interrogations, people show some kind of body language, and he is showing nothing. So far, he has literally not moved.
Have you ever seen anybody over her house the last couple nights?
No.
Okay. If you knew where she was, would you tell me?
Yes.
That was the first move we've seen. His eyes are tracking the officer. He's moving his eyes and his head, but that's it. I mean, watch this right here.
She was, would you tell me?
Yes.
So it's this inappropriate gaze almost, that rather than having this natural way of talking and looking away some, because we all do that, he's just staring directly at the officer, sitting still. His behavior is going to throw anybody off. I would imagine that for these officers, it was probably very hard to interrogate him because he doesn't play by the same rules as everybody else.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her?
Yes.
And this is the hard thing. When he asks open-ended questions, he says, I don't know. When he asks direct questions, he answers yes or no. And he doesn't give the officer anything else.
Tell me that you only have one car.
Yes.
What's his phone number?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do, because I already have his number. You don't know his phone number?
No.
And so what you're noticing at this point is that you're going to get more and more emboldened to continue to behave this way after you see that it's working. Because at this point, there's not much they can do. Having been to law school, he probably has some frame of reference of how people should behave during interrogations and during interviews. I would presume he does anyway. And right now, he knows to give them absolutely nothing. He's answering their questions, but with as little information as possible. We're going to skip ahead a little bit because otherwise we're just going to see a lot more of the same thing. You'll notice there's another interviewer now, and he is still not moved. I mean, look at the position of his feet, position of his hands. Nothing's moving at all. He's still just remaining still. It goes back to that freeze, flight, fight. He's just sticking in freeze and staying there.
So I asked you, well, if you haven't been able to sleep in several days, what have you been doing, studying? And you said, yeah, studying. You don't remember that?
No.
And one thing, I talked about open-ended questions earlier. So this officer is saying, what have you been doing for a few days? I asked if you were studying. At least in psychology, from my training, when we ask somebody a question, we ask it open-ended, and then we just wait until they answer. We don't say, hey, what were you doing last night? And they say nothing, and they say, were you studying? And they go, yes. You're going to get, you're feeding them possible lies. You're helping them with their lies. So assuming that it actually went as that officer saying, you got to be really careful with guys like Stephen McDaniel and not feed them anything.
So I asked you, well, if you haven't been able to sleep in several days, what have you been doing, studying? And you said, yeah, studying. You don't remember that?
No,
She's missing.
I know.
You went looking for her last night.
Yes.
Did you hurt Lauren?
No.
Stephen, did you hurt Lauren?
No.
I know this is hard.
I mean, look at the way that he just keeps his body so I know I've mentioned this, but it's just remarkable to me. He keeps his body so still and just follows them with his eyes. He locks eyes onto their face and just follows them.
Lauren?
No.
I know this is hard for you to tell it. But it's weighing on you right now, ain't it, Stephen?
I didn't do it.
So one thing that's really remarkable is right at the end of this interrogation, the officer is about to leave. And I just want you to watch Stephen McDaniel. I'm actually going to fast forward through this part, but just watch him. All right, so there we have him, just sitting there for literal minutes. Doesn't look around, doesn't move, doesn't do anything. So when we talk about bizarre behaviors can come in many different forms, and sometimes people being overly still or having a lack of energy can also be as equally bizarre, if not more unsettling than people who have lots of energy. He's sort of the opposite of the Darrell Brooks videos that we watched last time. I mean, if you just look, he just keeps sitting there, doesn't move. So after 5 or 6 minutes, it eventually ends, but he once again never moves. And so this is one of the things that you need to start paying attention to, how peculiar his behavior is. Let's watch a little bit of him in court. We're going to watch a very brief segment of him in court. There really isn't a lot of footage of this, but I wanted you to get a feel for what he's like in this context. Just watch this right here. So as you can see, even when he's in court, he's still got an unusual look. His eyes are open wide. He has a peculiar air about him.
Law entitles me to effective assistance of counsel. Mr. Meaford wasn't. Mr. Hogue wasn't.
But as you can see, he's capable of talking in a way that is coherent. He's able to respond to questions, but he's also able to engage in these really peculiar and unsettling behaviors. While I wish we had more footage of his trial, we'll go ahead and stop here. Hopefully seeing this helps you better understand some of the more bizarre behaviors of Stephen McDaniel. He's able to respond in a very peculiar way to news reporters, as well as sit silently and not move with law enforcement. And what you've got to understand about some of these criminals is they just have unusual interpersonal skills, and that allows them to behave in ways that other people don't. If you have any ideas for other bizarre behavior cases, please let me know in the comments below. Before we wrap things up, though, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.